I'm Jill Hendricks. I'm the Customer Success Specialist for MVB US. I was previously a bookseller. I owned and managed Fiction Addiction for 24 years, and I used Anthology for my point of sale software. I was also a professor for the Professional Bookseller School and dean of their inventory management class. So if I look familiar, it could be from any of those places. And then MVB, you may not have heard of, but we are owned by the German Publishers and Booksellers Association. And Frankfurt Book Fair is our sister company. We're both owned by the same parent. So we're deeply embedded in the book industry, and we operate the PubEasy and the Pubnet electronic ordering services. So your first question might be, what exactly is electronic ordering? I hear people talk about it, but what is it? So technically, it's machine-to-machine communication. And after you submit your order, there's no human involved if everything goes well. So technically, Edelweiss is not electronic ordering because if you use their service, the order has to be confirmed by your rep after you submit it. So it's not machine-to-machine, it's machine-to-rep to machine. And electronic ordering has structured rules that the parties agree on in advance. And there are currently two flavors. The first kind is called EDI, which stands for Electronic Data Interchange. This is what Pubnet uses and what you would use in Anthology. And this is asynchronous. So it's kind of like when you send an email, right? So you send the email, and when the other person is ready, they pick up the email and read it. And that's the way that electronic ordering in Anthology works. You send your order via FTP, and when the other party is ready, they pick it up and then they process it. The other kind of electronic ordering is called API, which stands for Application Programming Interface. And that's our PubEasy service. And it's more real-time and it's web-based, and it's less universal because each party has to program specifically for it. Whereas with each partner, whereas EDI is an industry-wide standard that lots of different people use. So I get some questions sometimes. What's the difference between PubEasy and Pubnet? And basically they're using different technology underneath, and you also access them different ways. So Pubnet you do through Anthology, and PubEasy is through a web browser. So the point of this webinar, if you're already open as a store, if you're already in existence, you're ordering books in some way, right? So the point of this is just to convince you to send some of your orders through a different workflow, to use an electronic ordering workflow. And so to do that, I want to share some of what I see are the benefits of using this workflow. The first one is it's super convenient. You can order anytime, 24/7 at your convenience, and you don't need a rep. However, if you do have a rep, they still get credit for all your orders, so you're not taking anything away from them. Secondly, you tend to get your books faster. Electronic orders have the fastest processing times, and you have fewer mistakes, so there's less room to introduce any errors, which means that there are fewer headaches for you on the receiving end of the process. And there's no waiting, there's no back and forth. You don't have to be on phone, on hold, or going back and forth in an email thread about things. Also, you'll get automated confirmations, so you'll know that your order was received. And your whole order history is in one place in your point of sale system. So you don't have to be checking different places to see whether books are on order. And it's easier for your staff, if you have any staff, because they're using Anthology as they're working with customers. So they can see the order history right there when they're working with the customers. And then electronic ordering is usually used to order direct, although of course you can do electronic ordering with a wholesaler. But when you buy direct, you're maximizing your discount and getting your best terms. And sometimes you can even get extra perks. Some publishers will offer lower minimums for electronic ordering, or they give you added advantages, like it's a prerequisite for automatic co-op with some houses. So when you order Through Anthology with Pubnet, you can order from almost every supplier you can think about. We have a huge 3-page list on our website. This is just a screenshot of like a third of it. So pretty much, every book publisher that you can think of is on Pubnet. And then, if you're still confused about the services that you would sign up for, if you're an Anthology user, most users only need a Pubnet account. So that's what you're going to use in Anthology for ordering. It has that really large network of suppliers, and Anthology has created some integrated workflow around the confirmations you receive so that if the publisher has changed the price or an ISBN, all that stuff is going to automatically update for you in Anthology. You can also use your Pubnet login or a generic one that we give you to set up stock check in Anthology so that you can look ISBN by ISBN and see if the publisher has that one in stock. And Lottie's going to do a demo of that toward the end. So the only reason I tell people that maybe they need a PubEasy account is if they need to check a whole list of ISBNs at once, but that's just a really small use case. So what are the prerequisites to use electronic ordering? So Pubnet electronic ordering is direct with suppliers. Hey Janine, how are you? So I'm going to finish up this and then we'll loop back around to get you up to speed. So the prerequisites for electronic ordering is that you must have an account with each supplier you want to order from. So Pubnet does not create your accounts. We're just a conduit for the orders. So you would open your account directly with the supplier like you normally do. You would need an account with Pubnet though. And you would do that at mvb@register.pubnet.org. We don't have any ongoing fees, and we will waive our $75 setup fee for you if you attended this webinar, which is why we're asking for your name and email so we can make sure you're on our waiver list and so we can contact you with handouts. Now, only 3 suppliers let you use prepay accounts with electronic ordering: Ingram, Penguin Random House, and Hachette. Everyone else needs a terms account, which means that they're going to invoice you after the books ship. So that requires filling out a credit application with the publisher. If you're a new bookstore, this can be a little bit of a learning curve to line up all of your references and get your credit sheet and get yourself in a position to be approved. But I help bookstores go through this. I imagine Anthology helps bookstores go through this. It's not, a terribly difficult process. It just takes a little bit of time because sometimes they like to see a certain number of months of order history, payment history before they approve you. So some of the handouts that we have that we can send to you afterwards is just basically an overview handout talking about terms accounts, linking to a lot of the documentation I've created already to help bookstores understand how to get everything up to speed. Another handout we have is to cover what Lottie's going to show you, which is using the supplier stock check in Anthology. And this has in it a generic login that you can use for this, generic credentials. So you don't have to create an account or do anything. You can just use all of the stuff in the document, and that would be enough to get you started. The one thing to know about setting up the stock check is you want to do it when the store is closed, because you have to use that tools options menu in Anthology where you have to be out of the system everywhere else. So you just want to schedule that, find a time when you can do it. And then the last handout is about how you would use Pubnet with a prepaid Hachette account, because they have a slightly different workflow than other people. So, if you're interested in electronic ordering, if the benefits seem good and you want to try it out, your next steps are, if you don't already have Ingram electronic ordering set up in Anthology, that would be a good place to start because almost everybody has an Ingram account already. So that's an easy one. Lottie can help you with that. If you've already done that, then, go ahead and make a list of the accounts that you've already opened with your shipping account numbers and whether, you're on prepay or terms. Now, some people have ship to address and a bill to address. So if that's the case for you, you want to make sure you're getting your shipping account numbers, and they may be different than what's on the invoice. So if you know you have separate ship to and bill to addresses, you might have to ask the supplier for your ship to account number. I'm not sure. It's probably on the packing slip, but I'm not positive because I always had the same address for myself. And then, register for Pubnet if you haven't already. Whoops, I've skipped ahead. That's a good next step. And if you're not an ABA member, as you're registering or right before you do it, just email us that you are on the webinar, and that reminds us not to invoice you. Or if we forget and you get the invoice, just write back and say, remember, it's all waived, whatever. And then, working on building your credit history if you're a new account. So, after 3 to 6 months, find your oldest account. And then if it's been open for at least 3 to 6 months, talk to that supplier about what you would need to do to convert it to terms. And then, the next one after that and after that, because you want to have those accounts on terms and have been paying them for about 3 months before you can use them as a credit reference for another account. And then once you have about 3 on terms that you've been paying for 3 to 6 months, you're in good standing, then you are good to go. Pretty much any supplier you want to open an account with is going to just check those references and say, it's A-okay. And then this is my information, and I'll also put it later in the chat for you guys. So that was the information I had to share. Any questions so far? And Janine, you kind of came in the middle. What is your experience with electronic ordering? Do you want me to go back and talk about some of the benefits, or?
Yeah, I would like, I don't have experience that much with the electronic ordering, so any help would be great. Um, I'm
Sure.
familiar with PubMed because I used to work I used to do things as a chemist and order magazine like articles and stuff online from PubMed or from National Library of Medicine, um, but not for like, bookstore stuff.
Okay. So these are some of the benefits of electronic ordering, is that you can order anytime when it's convenient for you and you don't have to wait on a rep. So if you have a rep, they still get credit, but it's a way for you to order directly out of Anthology where all your data lives, right? So you've got all your sales history, you've got your restocking, your sales report of everything that's sold, and you're trying to figure out what to restock. So you get to work directly in your point of sale system and you don't have to go anywhere else. You also tend to get your books faster and with fewer errors. And you're going to be able to get a confirmation so that you know not only that your order went through, but you can also see some information back about what titles are going to ship right away and which ones might be back ordered. So it gives you useful information that you can convey to your staff or your reps, your customers. And it tends not to be this information you don't tend to get from your rep unless you specifically ask for it, And everything's all in one place. Your booksellers can see what's on order. If a customer comes in and asks about a title, they can look it up in Anthology and see, oh, I've got one on order, do you want me to put your name down for it? Kind of thing. And as you move more of your ordering from a wholesaler like Ingram through publishers that Pubnet supports this electronic ordering with, then you're going to get better discount and terms. So it helps your sustainability and your profitability. And some publishers might give you an extra discount, a lower minimum, or some other perk because electronic ordering benefits them too. It's more efficient. It's they don't have to pay a customer service rep to be on the phone with you, that sort of thing. And it works with almost every supplier you can think about. There are a handful of exceptions, but you know, the big five, a lot of university presses, a lot of small presses. We have a list on our website that you can check, or if you have questions, somebody that you order with and you want to know, you can just shoot me an email.
So what about
And
all the new independent publishers? Because we were starting to get a lot of those that want to come into like the store. Are they going to add like some of the indie publishers, particularly if they publish some of the newer books, not just their own?
so it depends on whether the indie publisher is under a distribution contract or not. So like Charles Bridge is an independent publisher, but they're under distribution with Penguin Random House. And so that's who you order from is Penguin Random House. And Penguin Random House is on Pubnet. So you can order a lot of small presses through their distribution partner, but I would just have to get a name of the independent press and research as to who their distribution partner is. If they're too small for a distribution partnership, then they are probably too small to be on Pubnet because they don't have the technology to do the EDI. But we are in talks with the Independent Book Publishers Association to see if there are any solutions. But for now, probably their distributor is Ingram. If their distributor is Ingram, you can still order electronically. You're just doing it with Ingram, you know. So, and then the main prerequisites, you have to have your accounts with the supplier already created. And I have contacts, I can help with that, but we can't create the accounts for you. You'll need a Pubnet account, which has no monthly fee, usually has a setup fee of 75, but we're going to waive that for you if we know you were on the webinar. And then there are a few suppliers that will let you prepay with a credit card or a debit card and still use electronic ordering. But most of them want you to open terms accounts or switch your account to be terms so that they invoice you after the books ship. Because most of them haven't set up a way to automatically charge the card when they get electronic order.
So what can you explain for me what a terms account is? I know I probably sound really stupid, but I want to make
No,
sure I understand.
yeah, it's so a terms account means that you have filled in a credit application with the publisher and they have extended you credit terms. So they're going to tell you
Okay.
something like you have 30 days to pay after we invoice you, or you have 60
Okay.
days to pay. And so what happens is you'll send your order in, they'll fulfill it, and then they're going to invoice you after the order ships. Versus if you have a prepay account, the order is being charged to a card before it ships. They don't
Okay.
trust you to pay them yet. So they want to get the payment upfront. But so a lot of stores start as prepay, and then over time as they grow, they realize that converting to terms gives them some extra benefits.
Okay.
So electronic ordering is one of those benefits. Co-op is a benefit. So right now you get, you know, credit card reward points. We'll think of co-op as publisher reward points. So
Okay.
if you pay them with cash, then you get these publisher reward points that you can use towards your bill.
And how is this different than using something like Fair?
So Fair was designed first for sidelines. So it's a great place to buy a lot of sidelines. And because publishers also sell to gift stores, they have put some of their books on Fair because
Mm-hmm.
those gift stores want to carry gifts and books, but they usually have not put the bulk of their inventory on Fair.
Fair.
So if you want like a broader selection, if you want deeper backlist, then you'd want to order direct from the publisher and not through Fair.
Got it. That makes sense. And do they have like we don't usually do like larger groupings of books because we don't want to get kind of stuck with them. So like usually when we order a book, we order like 2, maybe
Yeah.
3 at the most. Do they have options for doing that kind of stuff rather than doing 20, 100, 150,
Yes.
300 for
So
quantities?
book suppliers usually don't have a per SKU minimum. You can order just a single copy. They tend to have a per order minimum or a shipment minimum.
Okay.
So for instance, with Hachette, you can place a single order for one title, but it's not going to ship until they end up with $75 worth of stuff that they're going to invoice you for.
Okay.
Unfortunately, every publisher has their own terms. So part of
Mhm.
the process of opening an account is to ask and to get their paperwork that tells you what your ordering minimums are, what your shipment minimums are, what your discounts are going to be, and then to keep that information handy. And there are ways in an anthology, once you have that information, you can set up little reminders. I can talk you through what I did. I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but if I knew that, say, Chronicle had a 10 book minimum, then I
Mhm.
set up an anthology for that vendor that it wouldn't show a discount until after I hit 10 books. And that way, as I'm drafting the purchase order, I could tell whether I was below my minimum or above my minimum. So that's just one little way you could do it. I'm sure everybody has their own system for how to keep track.
Okay. And how do I get like the reports of what's sold
Sure.
um
Well, maybe it's
here?
time to move
Because
into show and tell. What do you think, Lonnie?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and Lottie will show us Anthology and answer some questions in Anthology.
Yeah.
And Janine, if you wanted to just add to the chat your name and email, and then we'll be able to send the follow-up materials to you.
okay, give me 1 second and I will click on that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show the settings first for that stock check that Joe mentioned earlier. So I went into tools and options, and this is where you can only have one instance of Anthology open. And it's going to be this external data tab. And basically for PubEasy, you would just fill this in. And I believe, Joe, just correct me if I'm wrong, this is the generic credentials for it.
I think so. The password looks like it is. I'm not sure about the pin,
Yeah.
but that'll all be
Yeah.
in the handout for y'all and you'll just copy and paste it in.
Yeah. But that's where you would find it, and that's what it looks like. And then I just wanted to show just a quick stock check from a purchase order to give you an idea of what it would look like. So I have a small order here, and we'll be doing it from Ingram, just as an example, and I'll do an EO down on the lower right, and we'll do a stock check. So then the FTP process starts to go, and you basically just wait. This part right here it's just getting that file basically from Ingram. So this means that it's ready to view, so we will take a look at it. And right here you can see two different statuses. You have an item that is out of print and not stocked from Ingram. And then you have two other titles that are stocked and ready to be shipped because the warehouse has them.
Right.
So you could, depending on what your minimums are, you can basically just calculate or do a quick glance at whether or not you hit your minimum.
Right.
But it's pretty easy.
And is this
It,
only on new books, or is this new and used?
this would
Or
only
do
be
you?
new books.
Okay.
Yeah. Because used books are serialized. So they won't actually, I believe they show up as not a stocked item or some other status saying that this title doesn't exist because of that serialized ISBN.
Okay.
But that's the stock check feature. If you wanted to actually place the order, you would just hit the send order, and it's a very similar process to the stock check. It'll lead you through the loading screens and kind of go through all of its things, and then you'll get a confirmation file, which looks pretty much exactly like that stock check file that we just viewed. And then it would ask you if you want to process the confirmation, and then you would say yes. And then it would move this PO into the receiving state for you. So you don't have to manually post it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to emphasize when you're
Mhm.
getting started with electronic ordering, it has a slightly different workflow, right? You're probably used to manually posting your purchase orders once you've called the publisher or the rep, emailed and said, yeah, I got it. And with electronic ordering, you want to leave those purchase orders open and get those electronic confirmations, and then they will post the PO. Because A, it gives you a sign that, hey, I forgot to get the confirmation, I need to do that. And two, it does all the stuff like updating the prices and the ISBNs and giving you that information about whether it's shipping right away or canceled, so it's just a change in workflow you have to get used to.
Yeah, and if you send an order but you don't get the confirmation right away, this EO status will say sent right here instead of saying not sent. And then also, this EO sent column will be filled in. So this is a good example, actually, saying that it was sent, but I didn't get an actual confirmation.
And then you can just go pull it manually.
Yeah, so for this one, you can see that it's sent, and you would just get that confirmation. And then if it finds the confirmation, it'll post this PO automatically for you.
Yeah. So you showed them how to do stock check in Ingram for a whole order. Can you do just an individual title stock check with the publisher?
Yeah, let's this one. Oh, actually, that one, I don't think I have any credits for publishers, and that's why it won't let me. So like this penguin one.
Well, right, but if you just click on a book, like click on that book right there, the cool machine.
And just, yeah, I could do it this way.
Yeah, so this is the publisher stock check that we set up those credentials for. And up at the top, it shows the supplier, Penguin Random House, US. And on the left, it says not yet published. And the thing to remember about publisher stock check is it's just going to give you a status on the left. It never fills in any numbers. The publishers have not yet agreed to share their warehouse numbers with us. They're afraid that somebody's gonna, if they tell you how many copies they have, somebody's gonna go swipe them all. So they haven't yet shared that. They just tell us not yet published, available, whatever. And occasionally you might see more than one publisher because we're a worldwide service. So if a book is also available with that ISBN in Canada or in the UK, you might see a couple of lines. You just want to find the one that says US. That's your US distributor. So there's a good example of a UK one that shows up.
Yeah, and you can do this for any title, even in your inventory. It's just going to be this little kind of,
Yeah.
I assume it's computers talking to each other.
Yep, I think so. And so the publishers that will work with the stock check are the Big Five, Scholastic, Chicago Distribution, and Oxford University Press. So it's just a subset of the larger list that you can actually order from because they had to program this part differently and not everybody has done it yet. So you guys, what's your current ordering process? How do you place your orders now?
We do electronic ordering for Ingram. I've just finalized and got all my accounts, well, 5 of the major ones, publisher accounts. I did do a Pubnet and PubEasy. I enjoyed that explanation because it did confuse me what the difference between the two were. So I like they've accepted or matched me. I can't remember the terminology, but so I haven't tried to create an order that way yet. I did just send one through Edelweiss because I'm trying to learn that as well.
Mhm.
But I was telling Lottie this like I've kind of been stunted in doing it because it seems overwhelming to me to track, all these orders from all these different places and what I've spent and what I have. Ingram makes it easy
Yes.
just because I have it all there. But the electronic ordering through Ingram is amazing. So I want to be able to do that for everything. This Edelweiss one, I had to go back and I put it in. I mean, I've gotten really good and speedy on putting in POs hand, but I don't want to have to do that,
Yes.
because I want my staff to have all that information on hand to know to tell customers, oh yeah, we do have these on order and stuff. So this electronic ordering is unbelievable. I love
Yeah.
it. So it's just a matter of me learning how to do this, which kind of leads me into, so if I set up, so I did not think about doing Ingram with Pubnet. What would be the benefit of having it, just to have it in one place again? So should I
Well,
hook up a
you're already
relationship?
doing electronic ordering in Anthology, so you're fine
Okay.
with Ingram. You don't have to change that.
Okay.
Um, Pubnet just allows you to expand electronic ordering to other vendors,
Right.
so the
Right.
publishers.
Okay.
And then my advice would be just to go one publisher at a time,
Yes. Thank you.
and just get your system and your rhythm and, figure it out. If it's easier to do the credit application part with everybody at once, then go ahead and, fill in all your applications at once. But, you can take your time on as you moving your workflows around. And Jennifer mentioned an important step that, I hadn't gone into detail yet, but once you sign up for Pubnet, we're going to give you something called a standard address number. That's going to be your Pubnet username. And then when you send your orders in Pubnet, all you're sending is your standard address number. And the publisher takes that number and it looks it up in its system and says, what account is this linked to? Where am I shipping this order? And so one of the steps that we do is we email the suppliers and say, hey, we've got a new retailer on Pubnet. Here's their SAN and here's their account number. Please link them in your systems. And they need to do that piece. Otherwise, when you send your order, it doesn't go anywhere because they don't know, who this SAN belongs to. So that's just one of the setup steps that we do. And, I'm here to help walk you through everything. Lottie's there on the Anthology side to help. So you have plenty of advice and assistance at your on hand for you.
Yeah, and once you get your SAN and you start setting up your publisher credentials in Anthology, and I'll show you where those live too, because they just live under master files and vendors. And so basically, there's an EO tab for each publisher, and you would just fill in like your SAN up here and your account numbers. And then after that, it's pretty much copy and paste for a lot of
Yeah, we
them.
have a little handout online that
Mhm.
walks you through. It's just a little finicky, but we can do a Zoom and I can double check everything. Lottie can double check stuff. We're here to make sure you get it set up properly and then it connects. So the one difference between Pubnet ordering and Ingram ordering is Ingram, you tend to get your confirmations in that same communication, right? You send your order and you get your confirmation right away. The publishers are not as fast. So PRH maybe is the fastest, but it's still, you wouldn't want to wait for that confirmation. You're going to want to disconnect and come back and get it a little bit later. So that's kind of another workflow thing where you want to figure out how you want to get your confirmations for the publishers. So I would, send my orders, maybe in the morning or whenever I'm doing ordering. And then I would either get the confirmations before the end of day, or I would do that first thing the next day before I started doing more orders. So you just kind of want to work on your process and what seems best for you. And the first time you send an order to a publisher, that's the most important confirmation, right? Because that helps us figure out if they did that linking part in their system correctly. because mistakes can happen. Sometimes they don't do it quite right. So I like to watch over those orders. So the first time you order from a supplier, if you want to email me and say, hey, I just sent an order to, you know, Macmillan, can you make sure it goes through? Then I'll put my email address here in the chat, and y'all are welcome to email me anytime.